Namaskar, and welcome to this exciting episode of Sattology Debunking Mythology. Sat means truth, and Logos means a study or science. Sattology means a science of truth or study of truth. Opposite of that is mythology, which is myth means a fake lie imagination, Sanskrit word meaning fake lie imagination, and mythology means a science or study of fake lie or imagination. When we are dealing with the topics of Sattology and mythology, we have to be sure that mythology is a word, colonial word invented for mostly Hindu scriptures, not for other, because most of the other scriptures, most of the other regions of the world did not have such volume of literature written down. So the only place the Western society or the colonial powers had to prove wrong was the Hindu scriptures, the Vedic scriptures. So the word mythology was specially coined for Vedic literatures, not for any other literature. Now, the science of economics, and today we are discussing very specific area where thus spake Narad. Spake is a very poetic word, English word. Instead of spoke, is spake. If you look William Shakespeare in English, you'll see spake being used. Thus spake the uh, and then followed by the person's name. So the today we so the Vedic literatures had economics, had medicine science, had astronomy, very advanced, and also the science of rockets, science of weapons. Everything was mentioned in Vedic literature. In fact, if you look at the most of the Western literatures, I won't call them Shastra because they are not. They they keep changing. That's why it's not Shastra. Shastra do not change. Shastras are called Shruti and Smruti. They do not change generally, and the reason they do not change that because first of all they've been written in Sanskrit and they have been written deep inside. If you look at them, then the Shastras are written by people aparushya, means people who have descended to this earth. Very, I mean, even till date, if you look at and Shastras, they have not been proved wrong anywhere. Like I always say, the onus of proof is on others, not on us, because I already believe in it. I already follow it. I already practice it. So if somebody has an allegation on Sanatan Dharma or the Vedic scriptures or the Hindu Shastra, then they have to prove it. We don't have to prove it. We get into the wrong notion of proving everything. Like we want to prove how it is right. Like somebody, when they ask Hindus, do you have a caste system, get very defensive. We don't have to be defensive because the word caste is not a Indian word, it's a European word. Our system is varna, and I always ask people, A B C D, if you have four alphabets, ka kha ga ga, which one is higher? Nobody is higher. You need all the words. Similarly, varnas are all equal but different responsibilities. So that's how the shastra are. Very axiomatic truth. Very, you can make it as an hypothesis for your scientific research. That is allowed, therefore better understanding. Like we always want to have an axiom and then we have to prove or disprove. That's the scientific method of discovery. So today I am going to focus on the economics, because is dharma is in every category. Does not mean religion. Religion is a Western concept, and that is an English word that means to join back the Roman legions, religare, and it is mostly means a book based knowledge. Ours is not book based, ours is experiential. Sanatan Dharma is experiential. People who follow, many of you, if you're new to this topic, the difference between religion and dharma is very clear. Dharma means essential quality, intrinsic quality. Dharma you cannot change because it's a nature, it's a prakriti. Like everyone is born with a particular nature, that is called swadharma. And then actions and qualities define one person. This is universally valid. you know so today my topic of presentation is economics. That what did Narada speak on economics? Now believe me, why I say Narada, because Chanakya has also written Arthashastra, which is a compiled. Chanakya says it is compiled from Mahabharata, Ramayana, It is a fabulous book. One day I'm going to present on Chanakya, because what Chanakya has done for Chandragupta Maurya is is amazing for all of us, through Chandragupta Maurya teaching all of us, not just economics, but to manage the entire society. Like when Chanakya talks about Varnashram, means he's talking about the whole society. Before that, this topic came in Manu Samhita, Manu Smriti. Now, many of you know that the Ayodhya was the city of Manu, and from Manu comes man, mankind, all these different words come Manu. So we are all Manushya, like we look like Manushya, or we are followers of Manu, because he has given us the codes. If you look at Mahabharata and Ramayana, there is significant reference to Manu, what Manu wrote, and nowadays it has been given a political twist by the leftists and all the other uh, individuals who are against Sanatana Dharma, particularly inspired by the West. And because the West has a habit of creating atrocity literatures, means that they want to find faults in everything that is being told. Uh, that's what they want to do. So today we are going to focus on what did Narada speak on economics. Thus spake Narada on economics. And wait for the presentation. I'll just share it here. I'm not very good in that, but our team has made the slides, so I'm going to share that. Just give me a second. I hope you all can see that now. And thus spake Narada. So you can see uh, economics is the topic which is widely discussed. Like many people, when you talk about Yudhishthir and Sri Ram and Dashrath, they manage large states. So without core economic principles, they could not manage. And this particular series is based on what Narada tells to Yudhishthir. And Narada is not inventing new thing. Narada is just checking on him. Checking means he just wants to ensure that Yudhishthir is aware of that or not. And through Narada, through Yudhishthir, we are all learning. Now, you'll be shocked to see in this series, I'm going to connect the current affairs also, because most of you want me to comment on current affairs. I'm not into politics. I'm I'm involved in American politics because I support certain people, but I'm not a politician. Like I'm not. I'm more of an academician and a writer, author of books. So, and educationist, you can call me. So my point will be to bring out facts from the Shastra, which can be beneficial to you, and it can also challenge the existing narratives in the society. Existing narratives means generally the Western academics generally say, and Indian academics inspired by the West also say, and rest of the world academics also say, and they take Western academics version, their research as final. But the because the Vedic scriptures have their own viewpoint, and the best person to tell us is Narada, because he's the teacher of all the kings. He is viewed very negatively in India, in terms of he's belittled by the Bollywood, he's belittled by the media, and just called a patrakar or a reporter. He's not that. Very grave personality, very serious personality, and very knowledgeable personality. And when he comes to Yudhishthir or any other king of the world, he has come to many other kings, Mandata, Dhruv, Prahlad, and name any king which is mentioned in the Vedic literature, Vedic Shastra, not literature, he is mentioned over there, Narada. So very important person for us. So the first point which I'm going to mention, first of all, I would like to also tell you that India in the last 7 years has done phenomenally good in the world, because we are now recognizing our own Shastra and our own Shastra based economic growth. Hmm? And before I start off, I'll go to the next slide. And so, what has happened in the Indian context? What has happened in last 7 years? So, first of all, there was a propaganda by many people who said that Hindu rate of growth that was invented in 70s, 60s, If you look at the atrocities on the Hindu community by the Islamic invaders and Christian invaders was very, very high, very high. India, I have told in my earlier presentations also, the Greeks considered India right from today's Iraq to Cambodia. That is called Indoi, because the Indian Ocean was called Hindu Mahasagar, Hindu Mahasagar, and therefore they called Indoi. That's what the Greeks called. And according to the Greek version, I'm talking about many, many years back, many years back. I'm talking about from the point of time of Buddha, little bit before Buddha. And Buddha appeared almost 1800 years before uh, Christian dates like Christ, which are all imaginary dates, keep changing, but before first AD, so almost 4,000 years ago, almost 3,800 years back, Buddha appeared, and based on many many historical events, and we have many other shows on our Sattology channel. If you go and subscribe and check it out, Buddha, search on Buddha on Sattology, you'll see many many timelines over there. We already researched it, debunked it. I've written articles on it. And so the Western date chronology is very faulty. So Buddha appeared way back. And before, like 200 years before Buddha, or during the time in conjunction with Buddha, that time Chandragupta Maurya came. And we have seen the history of Chandragupta Maurya, how wide his kingdom was. Like right from the today's eastern Greece, right till Cambodia. That was a span of Chandragupta Maurya's kingdom, even today. So, so this is the history. Now, if you look at the economic aspect in Chandragupta Maurya's history, the trade and agriculture were the main drivers of the economy. So, whenever the society becomes peaceful or made peaceful, that means a society is dharmic. Now, the purpose of the state management is to encourage everyone to follow Dharma. And after that, from the 6th century onwards, the Islamic attacks came from Umayyad dynasty, Rashidun dynasty, and all these different tribes of Arabic world attacked Parsi, which was a Zoroastrian country, a Hindu country, Hindu Zoroastrian country. They had the same concept of devata, like Agni Dev, Varun Dev, the different devatas, elements they used to worship, which is very common in India. Agni Dev, Varun Dev, that was Zoroastrian culture. So Islamic attack destroyed all of them. Persia, which was a very rich country, was completely destroyed by the Islamic attacks. And then the same attacks came to India. So with the Indian heartland, which was starting from Afghanistan and Pakistan. Afghanistan was the first uh, point of defense of India. That was, they captured it. And then today's Pakistan, you can see what has happened. No historian took note of the entire history. They did not talk about the history. They only spoke about today's world, not about the history. The economic prosperity came down for wherever the Islamic invaders came to literally zero. In fact, if you look at Indian modern history, I've written in my latest book, Gold, Glory, and God. There in that book, I have captured the history where the Mughals were literally selling India to Dutch. For what Jahangir is known to know, he used to get clothes from Portugal just to give them good contracts. So all the wealth was shipped out from Bengal. That was the port that the Dutch used a lot. And because they could not use the ports of Gujarat because a lot of Rajputs were there, they were scared of that. So they had to use the port of Bengal, mostly from Bengal. So entirely looted, completely looted. So they lived for the foreign lands. And we can see in the case of today's Pakistan also, which is lives on the foreign dons. And that was the attitude of the Mughal rulers. So Mughals were not the rulers, they were the looters, and their influence was very less. Now, in last 70 years of independence, one of the few education ministers, and I really have to research actually who set the Hindu rate of growth. If some of you know, you can put it on the comments here. So if you look at in the last 70 years, the Hindu rate of growth was blamed for India's slow growth. And India became so poor that in 1991, they had to pledge the gold because they were not following their dharma. And 91, we know they had to open up the economy under strict conditions by the West, strict conditions. And and because this Sanatan Vedic model is a balance of, is a unique model, Arthashastra. It's a unique, the Vedic model of Artha is very different than the today's extreme ideologies. Like communism is an extreme ideology, capitalism is an extreme ideology. In capitalism, individuals become rich at the cost of the society. In communism, the state becomes rich at the cost of the society. But in Sanatan Dharma, or in the Vedic culture, the whole society prospers. And that happened in 91. At least they opened up. And before that, it was pure communism and socialism. Socialism, communism, they are the extreme philosophies. They have not brought prosperity to any land whatsoever. But India cannot be pure capitalist economy just like USA, because it is an impractical model. We have seen what is happening in the US also. So the Narada Muni talks about a middle path, and I'm just going to talk few things. So the Hindu rate of growth, the accusation of Hindu rate of growth, was a faulty model, was a faulty accusation on Hindus. It was never, it was not truthful. It was just a propaganda. Because if you call it a Hindu rate of growth, then what about the Islamic rate of growth? Not a single Islamic country is rich, other than if they have oil. Other than that, they're not rich. They're all poor countries. So if we I have to say Islamic rate of growth, then it's a very poor growth. They make, wherever they go, they make it poor. So, but the since 2014, ever since the new government in India came, now we are seeing the impact of the Vedic culture, because now we have a good king, and the good leader like the Modi government has done a fabulous job, and that's what I'm going to show you. The Vedic model is built on a balance. Like, it is not built on a it is Vedic culture is built on a balance, like a balance of social culture, social customs, dharma. Because dharma is doesn't mean just religion. Dharma means any idealistic state, or any best state for any category. That's dharma. Or original, you know original, idealistic, best possible state for any situation, any model. That is called dharma. It's very deep understanding of dharma we need to develop. We need to hyphenate dharma from religion. So, in if you look at the Indian culture, and if you look at the Bhagavad Gita, it talks about Krishi Gorakshara Vanijyam. That Krishi, agriculture, Goraksha, protection of cows, and the third is Vanijya, means trade. Trade on those things which do not hurt people's health or their well-being. you know like I said, dharma is the most peaceful stage. Like, the most of the Islamic countries are living in adharma, because they are not following the laws of the nature. They're working on a borrowed philosophy which is not helping them. Most of them are poor also. But Hindus can bring peace if we spread dharma. So today we are going to talk specifically on what Narada instruction. Before that, I'm going to summarize what has happened in India since 2014. And in Americans are also noticing it, because the rate at which India is growing now in the private enterprise, like, just give you some statistics: 150 unicorns by 2025. Atmanirbhar Bharat has done that fabulous work, and that is also in line with Narad Muni's instructions to encourage local industry. Narada also says that to Yudhishthir. So don't think that what is happening today was did not happen in the past. So what we can do is we can learn from the past and work on the present, so that we can improve the future. Hmm? So both dharma and earth have to go together. Dharma, if you follow dharma in economics, you produce artha, and that artha has to be used back. And that will be also my appeal to all the corporates, Indian corporates. See, the Western corporates, they fund Christianity, and that's how the Christianity spreads privately. Same way, the Indian corporates, Indian businesses have to spend on educating their people and invest money on increasing dharma all over the world. It may not come directly from the organization. That is the in the history also. If you look at the Mahabharata, 36 years of Yudhishthira's rule, all the private enterprises, they were large organizations were working even then at that time also, and they were also funding dharma on behalf of the king privately, because that is for personal purification, because wealth purification happens when you give the money for dharmic causes. You then the wealth purification begins. Otherwise, wealth, karma, the karma associated with the wealth cannot be purified. That was the essential concept of dan. Dan also is in three categories: sattvagun, rajogun, tamogun. If you give dan in the tamogun category, then you may get bad results. If you give dan in rajogun category, then you get problems or tensions. But if you give dan in the sattva guna category, then you receive good wealth, you get dharmic inspiration. So India's current growth is 150 unicorns. That means $150 billion firms is coming up in India 2025. More than 5 million jobs, new jobs coming. Even now it is almost 3 million. So by 2025, in next 4 years, you'll have more than 5 million jobs created in India. And by 2023, 2030, the India overtakes US in terms of startups. So the it's in the right direction. But what we are missing in India is what the West has done. Like what they do is that the private companies in the America and Europe, they fund church, and they most of the private individuals in the Middle East fund mosques. Like Qatar is the biggest funder of you can say global terror or whatever it is, and most of the Middle Eastern countries have done that. But Hindus, we are not investing in our dharma, which is a big problem. So we have to do that. I'll stop this topic over there before I move on to the next slide, and we'll cover that in detail later on in the question answers. So what does Narad Muni say on the state expenditure? The most of the Americans talk about the high taxes. They worry about high taxes, which has come to India also, very high taxes. Now the Narada says that the state should not spend more than three-fourth, worse than that is half, or worse than that is 25% is ideal of the state revenues. Now what will the state do with so much excess savings? So that is reinvested back in education, food, and health. These are three areas where they redistribute. Now the very surprising thing is, out of all the expenditure on the health, education, and food, because if you look at the Vedic economy, food is not taxed, health is not taxed, and education is not taxed. Education is free, medicines are free, and the only thing which is taxed is the food. Food is not taxed, but food, the cost is charged. But generally, even if the temples are there, the state is responsible for whosoever needs it, giving them free. So that part is like the welfare plus a business economy. And the overall taxation on people is not more than 25%. This is what Narada asked Yudhishthir. If Narada was not aware of these economics, why will he specifically ask Yudhishthir about it? Because Narada knew the importance. For a stable king or a Ram Rajya or Dharma Rajya, these things are important. Now the same questions are answered by Dashrath to Vashishta. Vashishta Muni says, does your state revenues are in line with the model of Manusmriti? Manusmriti says that the same instruction in Manusmriti also. So Narad Muni is in a way repeating it, because Narad Muni came before Manu also. But or he's also telling to Yudhishthir from his own account also, that how the state revenues should be collected. So today, if you look at the world society, most of the countries are in debt, and it is considered good by the modern economists. The debt means that the state should have more debt. Like if you look at America, The debt on every single American is $175,000 per head. That is a debt on every American on their head when they're born. A new child who is born has $175,000, which is almost like a 1 crore, 1.5 crore rupees for each person when the child is born in the USA. Same is the Chinese economy is black, but if you look at all the European economies, it's the same problem. An average debt on a European when he's born is around 30 to 40,000 US dollars. In India also that model has come in, where any Indian who is born has 2 lakh rupees debt on his head when they are born because it's a state debt. Now that model is not considered a good model in the Vedic culture. So that's what Narad Muni is saying. Three-fourths or half or one-fourth of state revenues. If the state is not doing well, there are no enough taxes produced. Now I can tell you one thing: taxes were there even in the time of Ramayana and Mahabharata also, but taxes were very judiciously applied. Not everybody was forced. People had to first meet their basic minimum needs. If they cannot meet, the state would help. The dan factor will come in, but generally the economy was kept stable with the revenues and expenditures. The the state's forces or armed forces were always maintained very strong so that the society runs peacefully. So most of the expenditure of the state was in security and financial policies. Financial policies were driven by Manusmriti. So India has done a great work in last 7 years, 8 years so far, but a lot more needs to be done to come to a pure Vedic culture or Vedic system. So that is the first is control the state expenditure, which is Narad Muni is asking Yudhishthir. You know. The next part is the loyalty, because the king has to maintain loyalty amongst his own subjects so that his popularity remains intact. That's why I say that there is a difference between democracy and lokatantra. Democracy is not lokatantra, lokatantra is not democracy. English word democracy was invented to 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 probably no to actually I've recorded in my book Gold, Glory and God, to actually when the Native Americans were reduced to a minority, then democracy was introduced so that the easily only the European settlers are elected in power. And most of the times Native Americans were not allowed to be in power because they were not citizens until 1924. America gave citizenship to Native Americans in 1924. That's when they became officially American citizens. So the the whole concept of loyalty is there in the Vedic culture also. So you may think of it's a corruption. No, it's not corruption. It's a dharmic activity. Because if somebody is working for you, because they all have to earn their livelihood, they all have to take care of their families and they have to take care. It is the duty of a leader of the society, political leader of the society, to make sure that all the good people, I'm talking about close people, means good people, good close people, are financially happy so that they don't introduce any corruption in the society. And it was their responsibility to ensure that the other officials of the state are not corrupt. And so earning loyalty, Narad Muni instructs Yudhishthir that you must earn loyalty of your close people so that you can rule. So this was a challenge for Yudhishthir also. Even though he was very close to Krishna, but on a vyavaharic level or a practical level, he had to ensure the loyalty of his own people. And many times we become very pure, idealistic, but believe me, human society has all shades. When we talk about Shastras are all practical. Mahabharata is all practical things. And you when you read Mahabharata or Ramayana, you'll see the practicality of relationships. Like Sri Ram waiting for Sugriva to come out of the Chaturmas. And because rains are happening, they cannot fight, go immediately to Lanka. So almost 4 months they are waiting here, and Sita Mai is still in captivity. So they waited for rains to stop, and then they proceeded on. So Vyavaharikta is a part of Vedic culture. So when they say earning loyalty, Narad Muni says he's checking on Yudhishthir that he doesn't ignore his close friends and relatives. because if he ignores them, he cannot rule properly. So this is the second instruction on economics to Yudhishthir. The third major instruction after that is financial reporting. Now this is a very important aspect. So every morning, Yudhishthir Maharaj had a morning function, and he was advised by Narad Muni also. Morning time is the Swadhyaya, then then day and then exercises, and then going out to work, and in the evening for Manoranjan. He says that. So here he asks him specifically, do you engage in, do you have regular reporting model, financial reports? So every morning while he's taking his breakfast, then first thing he would get the financial reporting from the state, from the entire state. Same was with Dashrath Maharaj also, because these are the two great examples of kings we have, Dashrath Maharaj and Yudhishthir. Dashrath is the father of Sri Ram, and so their daily morning reporting. So daily, all his ministers would come, different departments will produce reports for him to how the state is doing today. And then second thing they would talk about is financial transparency, so that there is no allegation of corruption comes on the king, because it's very important for king to be stay away from all kinds of corruption. That means the corruption did exist also. Corruption even then it existed. Is part of the human society for a very long time. So the idealism that we expect, we do not know what is Ram Rajya, but with these instructions we know what is Ram Rajya. Ram Rajya is built on very strong controls, very strong controls at every single level. Okay, so it's not that just existing, coming down, and then Ram Rajya, we're talking about Dharma, because if you are not stable, you cannot practice Swadhyaya, you cannot do Harinam Japa, you cannot do anything, you cannot do any Japa, Yagya, Tapa, you cannot do if you're not stable. If the society is not stable, then also people cannot do it. So that is the purpose of the king, to make sure that financially and defense, from the defense perspective, the state is secure and strong. And third is financial sharing, because financial sharing, if you look at the society today, then there is a lot of discrepancy between the rich people and the poor people. What happens is that when there is so much discrepancy in all the capitalistic models, this is the problem. Then the people start becoming there's unrest in the society, and then people fight for it, and then the ultimately people, they destroy the state, because they feel everything is wrong, everything, they don't have the equal opportunity. So the to avoid that, the financial sharing is the responsibility of the head of the state, where he ensures that the wealth, it's not a socialistic model I'm saying, but there are different ways to do it. Like I always say, that the private corporates and the private businessmen, their responsibility is to promote dharma. It is for them. And even Americans, if some American businessmen are watching, then it's your responsibility to promote dharma, because dharma brings peace, and also it also brings spreads prosperity equally. And just by collecting more taxes and distributing it is not enough, because in the Vedic model the maximum taxation is 25%. You cannot go more than that in the Vedic model. But people can earn a lot of money, and then it is their duty to just keep whatever is best for them. Isha vasem idam sarvam yat kinchit jagatyam jagat tina tektina bhundita. Same in similar instruction in Mahabharata also, Yudhishthir. Whatever is essential, the state will keep, but rest all will be spread out. Therefore, the wealth, there is no hungry person, there is no sick person, because the medical facilities are there for everyone, and there is a full education for everyone. And this is the way to spread the wealth. And that's why the third emphasis is given on financial sharing by Narad Muni. And it's all in my book, The Making of a Statesman. You can check it out on Sattology, on YouTube. You can check it out, search Sattology, you'll get the books. And so Narad Muni is laying out a model for us, or through Yudhishthir, that how the society can be economically prosperous. And this is a very powerful message, because most of the times we do not, we think that Dharma Shastra don't talk about this. You'll be shocked to know how deep it goes, including the taxation models, like how much, which varna has to be taxed, how much they have to be taxed. And you will see that everywhere the demand is very logical. And people are not forced to give tax. People are inspired to give tax. I know that is a very difficult situation nowadays because it's a fight for the survival created by the Western Abrahamic mindset. But the Vedic concept is not like that. The Vedic concept is dadati pratigranati. First give, then wait for receiving. But the today's society is just take, take, take. But the Sanatan Dharma talks about giving more than receiving, because when you give, you receive. That is not a Abrahamic saying. That is a Vedic saying. Dadati pratigranati. When you give, then you receive. After that, you receive. So the like the same is with japa, yagya. You perform yagya karma. First you perform japa, and then if your japa is good, then you get the results. Start getting the results automatically without even expecting it. So these are the three main points on economics today. And I also explained you how India has done exceptionally well in last 7 8 years, 10 years, where there was only one unicorn until 2013. Today there are almost 39, and it is supposed to get to 50 in next 4 years. So it is a big achievement for India, and maybe it will cross to 50. And the amount of employment being generated in India by the new firms, again, we have to again bring back the Vedic economics into it, because that's what we are lacking. The moment we bring in Vedic economics and completely discourage the Western economic model, then we will start talking about our topic. It's always good to have our cultural values showing in our businesses and showing in our heritage, because it's a Vedic heritage. It's good for Americans also, because Vedic culture is for the whole humanity. We even want America to be follower of Sanatan Dharma. We don't want it to be separate from Sanatan Dharma. They all have to, because the Abrahamic model is based on exploitation. Vedic model is based on sharing and caring about the environment. In fact, the environment is most secure if in the Vedic model itself only, because there is no slaughterhouses, large slaughterhouses, and the kindness is there, compassion is there, and also there is a feeling of happiness over there. So the last point I'll make is, obviously, you go to Sattology.org, write articles there. You can watch our YouTube, share YouTube. Go to These are the different books I have published, and you can share them, and you can follow us on Telegram. So there are many ways you can connect with us and stay tuned with us. I hope you liked my show today, and I'll take questions if anyone has. You can ask me questions on the topic today. So I'll just say, Soumyabrata Sahu is saying the problem with today's society is the aim of life has been without any ethical boundaries, but the aim must be dharma only and earth must be secular. Absolutely right, Soumyabrata Sahu, because the same thing Bhim tells to Yudhishthir. Bhim says, from dharma, this is a Bhim saying, so even the Bhim had the knowledge of Arthashastra and Varnashram. Bhim is saying, from dharma, artha comes, from earth, dharma comes. This is what Bhim is saying. And RK has said it. RK is saying, Sanatan Dharma model prescribes agriculture based economy. Well, Sanatan Dharma prescribes three. It prescribes three things. Number one, Krishi, Goraksha, Vanijyam. It's agriculture and Goraksha, cow protection. So all the three are lacking. Two are lacking. So in USA, Krishi, like in India also, and USA, India is a large agricultural society, and this is very good for India, because agriculture makes a very complete human being. Our farmers are spiritually, generally, they're more chance to be spiritually more advanced than a city person, because the connection with Bhumi is extremely important. Bhumi Devi connection is extremely important. So, farm agriculture means farming, not animal killing. The slaughterhouses in USA all must be closed down, because they are killing so many animals. Their cries go out in the society. They produce gases out of fear, and so much land is being eroded because of mass slaughterhouses. And therefore, those industries are actually produce ugra karma that destroys the very society. Therefore, you'll see in the Western society, Western world, very harsh diseases are there, very harsh results are. Weather is very harsh. A lot of cyclones, hurricanes, a lot of fire problems in the U.S. And the third is vanijya. Vanijya means trade. So trade based on dharmic values and products. Generally, most of the products in which the world industries runs around is personal health, has always been the big focus. That's why the Europe came to India to steal the wealth for spices, and that they took. That's why they came here, because of health reasons and their health, but destroying the native culture of India. Vijay Kumar says Indian businessmen are money minded and lackeys of the West. Don't expect them to support Sanatan Dharma, afraid of and have to face. Well, you are right. The corruption is there because they are not being guided, and they do not understand the connection between Dharma and earth. From Dharma, the earth has to comes. From earth, Dharma comes. But if you do not use the earth in Dharma, it becomes calm, and that's what is happening in India. See, the American model and Indian ethos are very different. The Christian ethos are the earth is made for your enjoyment. That's what the Christian thinks. Is taught from childhood. Catholics and Christians, they all taught, and Muslims also. The earth is made for your enjoyment. Sanatan Dharma is not like that. It's exactly reverse of it. It says, Isha Vasam idam sarvam yat kinchit jagatyam jagat. This whole world is built for Isha or Bhagwan, and it is done for his enjoyment, for his pleasure. So we are the caretakers. Automatically we become the caretakers. So Abrahamic model has destroyed the earth, and they have destroyed the planet far beyond that we can think. Like with all the rampant, just for money, large industries, large slaughterhouses, and that is not modernism. That is destructionism, self-destructionism. The Vedic model is living in harmony with nature and try to be as much compassionate to the nature as we are to other fellow human beings. So we have to reject the Western mindset, Abrahamic mindset. This world is not created for our enjoyment. This world is created for our service to Bhagwan through this world, through other humanity, through other animals, and through the land. So once we change that mindset, then a proper growth will come where people can be happy. Right now, people are not happy because it's like a rights. Rights are finite. Similarly, wealth is finite. If somebody takes more, the more people become poorer. So Bill Gates is a billionaire, but somebody in Africa has paid for his wealth. Somebody in Asia has paid for his wealth. Somebody somewhere else, somebody has poor is poor. That's why the Bill Gates is rich. That's why the Amazon chief is rich, because somebody else has paid for it. That's why it is the duty of a businessman to understand that his wealth is dependent on the society in which that person lives. And so, in the Vedic model, the private businesses are forced or requested for dharma to help other individuals, other parts of the state in three areas: medicine, education, and food. Three areas. So, remove hunger, improve education, like Sattology is one of the platforms. So through investing in these three venues, this wealth is spread. Education means dharmic education. Dharma is not religion. Dharmic education means what today we are talking dharma, but we are talking in the economic sense the dharma. So so investing in education like this, or research in this, so that how we can improve a quality of agriculture, organic farming in India, quality of the distribution, like how we can make sure that every other human being or 10-mile radius around my company is happy, my business is happy, they have enough money. So there's one more comment RK has made. I don't know a full name. Temple creates its own economy and saves many youth from alcohol and drugs. Absolutely right. If you look at, the temples were not the places of just worship. Temples were the places for social management in Mahabharat era, in Chandragupta Maurya's era, in Chola's era, in Chalukya, Pallava, Marthanda Varma in 1741, Padmanabh Swami. These were the places for social change. They were the universities. Like there were more than 40,000. That's why the Muslims attacked the temples first, because the temples were not just temples. Temples were Jobs were dependent on that. People used to get their nasal kriya, the vaccination from the temples. People used to get their food from the temple. There were free food distribution. People used to get so much help in jyotish, intelligent discussions. All the intelligent people used to assemble in the temples. So temples are the major cornerstone of a Vedic economy. When Yudhishthir Maharaj used to give dan, or Chandragupta Maurya, they used to give to the temples. Their wealth was given to the temples. And then the temple's duty was to distribute it to everyone else. So all the gurukuls were running, so many gurukuls were paid by the temples. Now all that models were destroyed by the Muslim invaders and the Christian invaders. And therefore, what is left today, but still so left is left, something is left because of our parampara system, but now it's our duty to build it back and re-energize the whole system by learning from our Mahabharata, Ramayana, and through Narad Muni how we can recreate it. So I agree with you, RK, for that. So any other question anyone has? So you can ask me right now, or we can move on to the show. So one important aspect, if you look at it, the today's world, especially in the category of if you look at the category of trade and commerce. Now, trade and commerce has become highly digitized, but it is a challenge as well as an opportunity. And one of the areas is the challenge for the trade is that the trade depends on stronger militaries. You may not like it, but it is the fact. One who has a stronger military drives the trade agreements. That's why the US has been rich so far after World War II. And any country to succeed of the size of India, they have to maintain that. I mean, it is a necessity even in the time of Mahabharata, even in the time of Ramayana. This is a human thing. So they have to maintain a strong military to do that. So Vijay Kumar says, why can't Hindus fight to free temple control? Listen, the temple control, all the temples have to be freed from government control. But we also need to make sure they have appropriate boards who work on the lines of dharma. And and my point is only Hindus, educated Hindus from the temple community must manage the local temples. People who actually practice must manage the local temples in the spirit of Isha Vasamidam Sarvam to do three things: education, free medicine, free food. These three should become the main purpose of all the Hindu temples. And when that happens, it will automatically produce a change. So I think I'm totally agree with you, Vijay Kumarji, for what you're saying here. And I also agree with your second statement that most of the Hindu money is used for welfare for other communities. And in India, the problem is even worse, that this money used when, I mean, the equally, mosques money should be used for Hindu welfare if they want. Christian money should be used for Hindu welfare. They do not do that because those are very communal faiths. Sanatan Dharma is the only non-communal faith. And so Sanatan Dharma wealth is used for everybody else, which is the wrong thing. So, thank you all for joining today. I think a lot of good questions have come in, and I like to keep this show small so that people can watch it more and more. Unless then somebody has any question, you can ask me and I'll show up. Please ask me relevant questions so that I can answer. So, thank you all. Namaste. Keep watching. Next Sunday, we'll be talking about some politics based on Narada's instructions or some other topic that you may suggest me. Send me a note. Thank you. Subscribe on YouTube, share the channel, and let everybody know the focus on education. Namaste.